Hail and well met, friends. In this episode we're going to have a look at how the town of Britain is coming along, and we'll also finish up Castle Britannia together. In each video I'll be sharing some handy things I've learned along the way, which I hope you'll find useful. But before we do, I'd just like to warmly thank each and every one of you who has shown interest, given words of support, and helped me with this project. I'd especially like to thank my son Daniel for working his butt off, remastering the old Ultima soundtracks for me, and a big hug goes out to Bidu as well, who has gained much respect in the Wurm community as a modding wizard. I had a couple of big issues I was dealing with in the project, and Bidu was so kind as to make me some custom mods to solve those problems. I hope I get the chance to repay the favor someday. After releasing the first video in this series, it drew an astonishing amount of attention. First, RuneSaber, aka Kirk Black, former lead programmer of UO, responded to my thread in the Wurm forums just to wish me well with the project. Then Designer Dragon, aka Raf Koster, former UO lead game designer, shared this project on Twitter, and Lord British, aka Richard Garriott himself, shared this on Twitter as well. This soon escalated into several sites making an article about the project, like Massively OP, New World Notes, Ultima Codex, and even Vice Motherboard. I've literally spent this past week with my jaw hanging on the floor from shock. Who would have known? I honestly thought that when I first started posting about this, that I'd maybe get the interest of a few Wurm players who happen to be Ultima fans as well, and that's it. Wow, just goes to show how much love is still out there for the Ultima games, still to this day. So I've just logged into Wurm Unlimited, and as we can see it's very dark and rainy right now, so I'm going to want to adjust the time of day and the weather just so we have a little bit better visibility. But before I actually do that, you can see that I have this light source, and it is for GMs, and I want to turn it off because whenever we approach something it's going to have this fake light that doesn't really look so nice. So by default when you log on as a GM, you would have this on. So the command to turn it off is #GMLIGHT and press enter, and then it turns off, and we can turn that on with the same command at any time. Now it's much more natural because we're not giving off a source of light ourselves. The next thing I want to do is set the time of day. So there is a tool for that, and I've set it to a keybind for myself, and I will share on the screen later on how to do that. So time offset, we can adjust it to something like this, and those clouds are making it a bit dingy, the colors, so just gonna turn the clouds here. You can see it's full cloudiness. I'm just going to turn those off and turn that rain off as well. And that should, there we go. And if it happens to get foggy, I would also want to make sure that the fog is at 0 as well, because that is going to cause a little bit of lag. Now the next thing I'm going to want to do is, like right now, I'm super heavy because I have all of this junk in my backpack, so I have a weight of 7,000 something, so it's pretty much impossible for me to walk around. As a GM, you can fly, and then you will become weightless, completely weightless. So I have a keybind for that, and I'm just gonna raise up into the air, and now I can fly around. This is one of the most fun things actually about the GM tools, is it really makes it so much easier to build stuff, and obviously super interesting to see the world from up high as well. For those who don't play Wurm and are new to this, this is not something you can normally do as a normal player. This is only for the God tools, the GM tools. So yeah, let's have a look around. So I'm just gonna zoom all the way out, and let's see how this is progressing. It's getting a bit laggy now. There's so much it's loading into the screen. And this is now looking like it would from the map view, so we are now facing north. And the town of Britain is around this area. So you can see that I've gotten the castle almost done, and the northwest and southwest portions of the city. But so far I've mostly just like built the buildings. I'm probably going to, I have decorated some of the buildings from inside, and I have, you know, put a few decos out in the streets as well, but just for the sake of like avoiding lag, I probably will leave the decoration part up till the point when I'm ready to start releasing or making it public the server, because there's no use in causing myself lag up till then. But we can have a quick look at some of the things I have decorated a little bit, and I'll just open Ultima here, Ultima, so we can see what the equivalent area is here in UO. So right now in UO I'm using an emulator, and I'll share the link for that as well in the description. So we're here on the harbor, and this is the area we can see here. So as you can see, I've like fully decorated with all the little fish and barrels, and we even have some of the anchors as well on the docks. But this has gotten so much coverage that a lot of these viewers that are watching this are also going to be Ultima players who have absolutely no idea about Wurm. So I think I'm just going to include a little bit of information about Wurm as well as we go along. So one of the most lovely things about Wurm is the fact that there are many ships and boats, and you build them from scratch, and you can sail around the seas absolutely freely, just like you can in UO, and you can fish from your boats and so forth. So that's something so rare in MMOs. You don't really see that. Most of the time there's just these automatic boats like in World of Warcraft or else in Elder Scrolls, and you just board the ship and then it travels automatically. But like UO, here you can have a ship and like freely travel around. So that's super cool. It's one of the things I love the most about Wurm. So yeah, so let's just see. I have also exchanged all of the signs in Wurm to sort of match the UO signs, and I can just quickly show that up on the screen. And let's have a look inside. So this is one of the houses I have decorated actually. So let's have a look at how that actually looks in Ultima as well. So you can see it has like bookshelves and red carpets and these golden colored furniture. Now one thing that is kind of a pain in the ass about Wurm compared to Ultima is like one of the loveliest things about Ultima was the fact that you could decorate, you know, you could put stuff on tables and you could pile things on top of each other. In Wurm you can't really do that. So for instance these books, I cannot put them on top of the tables, unfortunately. So there is no way to decorate any like surfaces, and this is something that players have been wishing for many years. So I don't know, I'm sure there must be like some kind of technical reasons why this can't be done. So I'm just wondering if this would be possible, that the table does not collide with characters, but it does collide with items. So that way I could walk right into this table, I could drop an item. So for instance, if I drop something like a barrel, then that barrel would stay on top of the table. Here we can see that it's dropped over there just in front of me, but you can see that I can actually push it right through the table. But imagine if it would have dropped on top of the table, because it would have collided with it. I'm not sure if this kind of like system would be possible, but perhaps that's one option. But yeah, there have been many like big things that I've wished from the game over the years, like being able to sit on the chairs and other things. And this is sort of like the last big thing that I really wish from Wurm, is being able to decorate tables, because now it just feels dumb that we have all these cool like items in the game, and we can cook really fancy dinners and stuff, and you can't put anything on the tables. Anyhow, let's move on and have a look at the rest of West Britain. So maybe we could just go along the ground here, and I'm just going to turn off the UI. And maybe this would be actually nice to have a look at nighttime, or sort of like at evening, so we have the lanterns on. So let's just adjust the time of day. That's morning. Let's go to the evening and have a nice atmospheric nighttime, and you can hear the crickets start to chirp. So here is the inn just south of the Britain Bank. And there is the famous bank, the one where everyone in Ultima would stand around spamming their wares, and all the tamers would be lined up here with their dragons and their nightmares, selling their pets. And this is the little hump of ground just that sort of elevates in front of the bank. I'll just pop over there in Ultima and you guys will remember what I'm talking about. I remember back in the day, here is this little hump of ground, and all the cool kids would be lined up right up under this rooftop here, and just sort of watch people go by. And of course, we all remember there was the trick to get up onto the bank, onto the bank rooftop. And now in God mode, we can of course just pop over here. And as far as these lamps, the way that I have laid them out in the game is any time I saw a lamp in Ultima, I have placed the lamps in the same spots. But what I did have to do though is, because there were not a sufficient amount of lamps in Ultima, so there was some spots that were left very, very dark. So I did have to add a few additional lamps just to make it, bearable to walk around at nighttime. Oh yes, this is one of the pubs, but I've only put a few tables here. It still is lacking. It's got a fireplace as well, but I haven't really decorated it properly yet. And here is this sort of square. If we have a look in Ultima, it's this spot, and here is the little gateway. Let's see, is there anything else? Oh, we could actually go this way because it looks pretty cool. There's the castle, and here is Wurm has something called bridges that you can do to not only build real bridges, but you can also use them as elements for building houses. So I was trying to think of a way to solve this problem with this guard tunnel or this fence, like how to get a tunnel, because right now the problem is that this building is higher than this building, so I needed something that would connect the both but still work, and that bridge seemed to do the trick. And it looks like this from up here. Oh, I still have a range pole, it seems. Let's just delete that. And here is the entrance to the castle. We'll go there in a moment. Let's have a look through this this main road that leads to Eastern Britain. And there is the famous inn where I'm sure a lot of you have left your characters to log off and leave safe before you logged off UO. And it looks a little bit dismal in here inside. I can show what it looks like in UO. So this is something I've been sort of like struggling with. I could decorate it to be much, much prettier, actually. Let's have a look. So I've tried to mimic what you see here to the best of my ability, but it does look a bit barren and boring, to be honest. So this is something I've been struggling with. Do I stick like 100% at all possible in all possible ways to keep things exactly like they are in Ultima? This is this room now. Or do I do it the Ultima way and then just add a little bit of like a little bit more decoration just to make things a little bit more inviting and attractive? I don't know. Like for instance, this hallway upstairs. If we just go upstairs quickly, you can see that this view right here, there is absolutely nothing to see in the hallway. So, you know, I'm so tempted to add, you know, maybe a desk or some bookshelves or some flowers, flower pots or something like that. But I don't know. Do I stick to UO like 100% or not? Yeah, that's a tricky one. Okay, let's see, what else do we have here? Oh yeah, and another thing is that, so looking at the front of the inn, there is this stepway up to the entrance. And I don't know if I'm just not knowledgeable about this or not, but like, does anyone know if there's a way to make these steps up here without having to build walls around it? Because for those steps to be built, I had to have it within the house boundaries, of course. And to have it in the house boundaries and for the house to be legit, it had to be surrounded by walls. So I'm not sure if anyone has any information about that, if there's any way that I could do it so that I could just have these steps just like you see here. That would be great. Here's the healer. I'm sure we've all us Ultima players, we would run here. As you can see from the windows, there's nothing inside. I haven't even put a floor here yet. Some of them have been decorated though, so we can peek inside those. But yeah, I'm sure we've all run in there as ghosts at some point in Ultima. And there is the famous mages. Now something that did turn out pretty nice though is the conservatory, I think it was called. Let's just have a quick look. Lord British's Conservatory of Music. And that is looking quite fancy, if I don't say so myself. And this is the place here. Now, in Wurm, when you make a building, you have to make sure that like this isn't really possible in Wurm, having these kinds of one tile towers, because the house would only connect at the corners, and that's not enough. So I sort of cheated, so it appears like it looks like it's a one tile tower, but in actuality I have this little piece here that makes it connect to the rest of the house. But it's good enough. I think the visual effect still gives that impression that it's like a one tile thin tower. So it's pretty cool. And there is the smithy shop. I think a lot of people, at least I used to hang out here a lot when I first started Ultima. So let's just have a look where we are here now. This place. I loved this place back in the day. Always spending time there. And let's see what we have behind here. We have a few houses and inns. Now, something very cool about Wurm is that you can dye houses. You can't dye the rooftops though, which it would be kind of cool if you could do that. And here, this view of this little island, I know you can't see anything, so I'm just gonna change to the weather. Oops, the time of day. Let's just adjust that so we can see what I'm talking about. So this little island, this is gonna be fun to build. I can hardly wait. So we're way over here. This was the inn we were just looking at when I was talking about dye. And this is, what was this place called again? I believe this is Blackthorn's castle. But yeah, this is going to be fun to do because it's on this little island. Anyhow, maybe it's about time we go and start building or actually finishing Castle Britannia. So let's just fly over here and see what we have to do next. So yeah, we could have a little peek on what I've done so far. So if I just take my little character over here as well. It's kind of cool that in this emulator you can also walk on water. And there we go. So right now we're looking at the stables, and there's this little garden as well. And this castle is huge. So this is one of the things that Bidou helped me with, is that like in Wurm, there is an upper limit to just how big of a building you can make. So in Wurm, even if you have the top skill level of 100, the largest house plan that you could make would be about this size. So obviously when I started making this castle, I was put into a very tricky situation. What I could do, of course, is chop up the building pieces and then connect them with something like fences or bridges, and that's what I did actually start to do. But it would look super ugly. It wouldn't be authentic. And then there's the problem that in Wurm, houses have to be one tile apart. So I was kind of like, oh no, is this gonna like stop the whole project, because I can't do that, because there's gonna be a lot of big buildings in Ultima. So Bidou came to my rescue, and he or she, I'm not sure which gender, but and Bidou made me a plugin that will take away any restriction from building size. And I assume that the reason that there is a restriction in Wurm is due to lag issues, but in the case of Wurm Unlimited, and especially this kind of server that I'm going to be making, which is going to be restricted, there's probably not going to be that kind of problem. Yeah, so anyhow, here we can see there is a dining hall. And if we have a look here, just teleport in here. It's this dining hall. And then, of course, here is the throne room. And there are not any long carpets like this in Wurm, so I just connected a whole bunch of carpets to each other. And this looks pretty nice at nighttime. Let's just see what that looks like here as well. So we can't stack anything on top of each other, so these statues cannot be stacked on top of these pillars, so I just put them in the front instead. And as far as this platform, now that I know how to reskin the textures, I think what I'll do at some point is color these red like they are here, these curtains. And then that'll look a little bit more authentic. And of course, the throne, there's nothing shaped in that way in Wurm, so I used the royal throne instead. And normally the royal throne is just like wooden, completely wooden, but I reskinned it by adding these little red cushions. Of course, this doesn't have any 3D geometry. The seat, which is kind of it's kind of flat, but it still gives that sort of impression of it being like the Magician throne in Ultima. So that's better than nothing. And then there are more eating quarters over here and all these like bedrooms. And I've just roughly reskinned the canopy bed to be sort of like the Wurm bed. Sorry, the Ultima bed. So, which looks like this. But as you can see, it's just very roughly done, so I'm gonna, especially the blanket, I just quickly slapped it together, so at some point I'll make it like super nice and like look like it should. And then there's this kind of little kitchen as well. Oops, now I got lost. I'm gonna have to go all the way over here to get back in. Here we go. Here is this little kitchen. I don't know why this kind of shape is here. I'm assuming that's supposed to have some kind of like fireplace, but I put a fireplace myself at least. Okay, so the next thing that we have to do, the whole lower level has been completed and furnished. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go to the second level and we are going to start building. So the first thing I need to do actually is start building all of these floors, because we can't start building walls until we have the floors covered. So I'm just going to start building these floors here. Make sure I have my magic wand enabled and plan floor above. And this is what it looks like, so it makes a little frame for those who don't play Wurm. Plan floor above. I could make a macro, I guess, for this as well, but I'm not going to bother. Plan floor above. Okay, now I should have all the ingredients and I should be able to build this, and as we can see, it's progressing just fine. Now, one of the things you're going to want to do when you first start out in God mode is set your skills with all the building stuff, and you can do that by again activating the ebony wand, which you should have in your backpack, and then right click something, and then there is skills and learn, and you can set all the skills. And this is interesting for the Ultima players out there as well to see. These are all the skills in Wurm. There's a whole bunch of them, just like in Wurm as well, in Ultima as well. So it's very similar, actually, the two games in these in the skill raising mechanics. But yeah, you're going to want to set your skill level to 100 for anything that you feel you're going to be needing, like the building stuff. So we already have 2 floors. Let's just add some more. Alrighty, we've now completed the second floor of the castle, and the next thing to do would be to start building the walls. Now, you might be wondering about the throne room, like why is it all floored in? Because surely the throne room should be 2 stories high. We don't want a throne room that is looking all like low like this, with low ceilings. And just to check in Ultima Online, here you can see it has a very high ceiling, and we want it to be very regal and stately. So the reason I have actually put floors there as well is because in Wurm, for me to be able to build a ceiling in the top, I need to have structures, first floors and then walls, upon which I then build the ceilings. So these are just temporary, and in the end I will just delete all of those floors from the throne room. But for now, I'm going to need those there. So we will start off by making walls. Okay, we've now completed the plans for the outer walls, so next I will start building them. Before I start building these walls, there's something I have to take care of, which is my water supply. Now in God mode there is a very handy function to replenish all of your stats here. You simply have your wand enabled, right click something in the menu, or in your inventory menu that is, and then choose item and then refresh, and it will instantly boost up everything. So that makes life definitely much more easier than your normal Wurm gameplay. So when I start building these walls, I'm gonna want to make sure that they are matching what's going on in Ultima. So as we can see here, for instance, these are just plain walls, but then you start to have these windows along the side. So I'm gonna want to make sure it sort of matches up. And actually, come to think of it, for me to decide on how these are lined up with the walls, because it's going to be kind of hard to estimate, I probably should build the inner walls first, because I can use those as sort of like measuring sticks to estimate those walls. So actually I'm going to do that first before I build the outer walls. Okay, now I've planned out all the walls and I'm ready to start filling in these walls with more than just a plan. I think what I'm going to start off with is actually this throne room, because I really want to get rid of all those floors there. So then it will be inspiring to see the throne room take shape. Now in Ultima there are these arched, or actually these pillars that hold the ceiling up. In our case we don't have those types of pillars, but what I could use is the arched wall, which would work pretty nicely for this. So let's start off, and do those pillars go all the way from the beginning? Yes, they do, but they're only on the sides. So add to crafting window and plain stone arched wall. And are those? Yes, they're also stones. They're not another material. And we'll just start building those. So that's what they look like, and I think that will work nicely for this purpose. Now, as you can see with the god tools, I mean, there's going to be a lot of Wurm players who watch this and they've only played, either they've only played Wurm Online, or else they have they play Wurm Unlimited, but they just play as like normal players. They've joined somebody's server, and then they have never tried the god tools. So this is what it's like building with the god tools. As you can see, it's like super fast and very fun to do. I have to say that actually playing with these god tools is probably one of the main motivators for this whole project, because I just have so much fun with this. It's like The Sims, but even better. So, but I have to say that if you're like one bad side about playing with these god tools is that once you get a taste for them, building stuff normally in Wurm and just playing Wurm like normally after that, I don't know, it's gonna be like hard to find the motivation to do that, because this is so fun that then like normal playing is gonna feel much more tedious, I think. Okay, so now we have those sides, and let's see what it looks like for this side. So it's just a solid wall, so we will add a solid wall at the end here. So beware, like I'm just warning you that if you watch this video and you're like, oh man, I want to try that as well, and you've been playing Wurm Online or else Wurm Unlimited like just normally up till now, it could be that there's no turning back if you get a taste for these god tools, and then you might feel that the game is ruined for you. I don't feel that way, but like I don't know, this is so fun to do that it could be that once I'm done with this project I might start another project. I don't know. Anyhow, So what I will do next is to be able to delete these floors, I need to make a ceiling for the throne room. So, and to do that, I'm gonna have to go through this tedious process of adding floors and some temporary walls here on the floors to be able to make the ceiling above it. So that's gonna take a while. So I'll come back once I've done that. Okay, the roof of the throne room is now built, and now we can dive in and we can start delating those floors. So here's the bottom floor, and we will start delating these temporary ones. Now, you can make a keybind for delating, and I've been using it. You might have seen me just popping away stuff here while we've been looking at stuff. But the problem with using, I could do the delete on the floor and it would pop it away, but unfortunately there is a weird thing that it will pop away. It will delete all floors on the same vertical line. So it would delete the ceiling and the very bottom floor, and we don't want that. So for now I'm just going to do it the old traditional way. But this is pretty fast as well, so it's fine. But doing it with that keybind is super fast when you need to delete a lot of stuff in God mode, so it's worth making a keybind for that for sure. I have to just be careful that I don't delete anything, I don't destroy anything else while I'm at it. Okay, now that's what I'm talking about. This is going to be very nice. And once we get all those walls and the ceilings in there, this is going to be very, very nice indeed. And let's just actually turn the time of day just to be nighttime so we can see this. Let's see. See this when the lights are on. Of course, a little bit of light is still coming from the windows. There we go. Yes, very cozy. Alright, now all the walls have been built, the inside walls and the outer walls, and I'm ready to start decorating the second floor. I've started this bedroom over here, and it looks like this in Ultima. So I've got the bed down, and I need to add now an armoire and a chest of drawers. But of course in Wurm we don't have exactly those kinds of pieces of furniture. So we're going to check here on this item list. This is something I put together at some point. I took screenshots of like all the sort of items in Wurm that you could use to decorate with, and check out what's there. So one thing that could be used as an armoire, for instance, is the larder, which is meant for storing like food items so that they don't go bad. That looks very much similar to like a cupboard type of thing, so I might use that. And might as well make them top quality. Yeah, so anyhow, I'm gonna furnish all the rooms, and then I'm going to put on the roof, and then we're gonna do a final look at the whole place once I'm done and see what the final result looks like.